we've got the Progressive News headlines. Okay, here we go for today, October 14th. On the second day of hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee, Democratic lawmakers pressed Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett on health care, election law, and abortion rights. On health care, she said nothing. On election law, nothing. And on abortion rights, after clearly having stated her rabid anti-choice stance in creed after creed, yesterday on the stand, she said nothing. It seems like she is playing to the average Fox viewer while insulting the intelligence of, well, anyone with intelligence. Barrett dodged questions on how she might rule on a challenge to the Affordable Care Act, whether she would recuse herself from any lawsuit about the presidential election, and whether she would vote to overturn Roe v. Wade, which makes abortion legal, in case you don't know that somehow. When she was asked about a newspaper ad that she signed criticizing Roe v. Wade, this was first reported by The Guardian, by the way, Barrett said she had no recollection of it. She pulled the Reagan, well, I don't remember, and stressed she had nothing to hide. And then she went on to hide all her deplorable views from anyone who is just tuning in. Basically, she's just lying. In case you're just watching these proceedings and haven't read anything, which could be. Here is our beautiful Kamala Harris questioning Barrett. She took her to task. Let's take a listen.
So if the Affordable Care Act is struck down, more than 100 million Americans with pre-existing conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and cancer would pay more for insurance or be denied coverage entirely. More than 20 million Americans could lose their health coverage entirely, including nearly 3 million Black Americans and over 5 million Latino Americans who received access to health insurance because of the Affordable Care Act. Insurers will once again be able to discriminate against that more than 50% of African Americans and nearly 40% of Latinos with pre-existing conditions. Insurers will be able to deny coverage to more than 1/4 of Native Americans with conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. All of this in the midst of a pandemic that is not going away anytime soon. A pandemic that, when age is taken into account, has been 3 times as deadly for Black, Latino, Pacific Islander, and Native Americans. A pandemic that has killed approximately 1 in 1,000 Black Americans, 1 in 1,200 Native Americans, and 1 in 1,500 Latino Americans. Judge Barrett, would you consider the 135 million people who gained protections under the Affordable Care Act when deciding a case that challenges that law?
Senator Harris, if I were to be confirmed and conclude that I was not,
she's like,
I was
nope,
able to sit on the case pursuant to the recusal statute, and then if I heard the case and decided the case, I would consider all the protections that Congress put in place.
Okay.
And as I said earlier,
it's nice whatever she's saying here, but she has never argued even one case in a court of law. It's nice to know her opinions and shit, but the reality is she is not qualified for the job. Okay, Brett Kavanaugh, we didn't like him, but he was qualified. This woman is not qualified. She's intelligent. She was a professor. She's obviously intelligent right here. She's well-spoken, which is something you generally don't hear people say about white people. But anyway, she is intelligent. That's what we're watching here. But she is not qualified for this job. Never argued in front of a court. Never. She's only been a lawyer for 3 fucking years. Have you heard that? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be swearing on ActTV. Maybe some people that's going to turn you off, but it's not just her lack of transparency and her abhorrent views that she has, that she suddenly expects us to believe that she doesn't hold anymore and that she's going to be completely impartial. Well, if she was going to be completely impartial, President Trump would not have even suggested her for the bench. She is unqualified. End of story. That should be enough. Is anyone questioning her about her being unqualified? Let's continue and take a look. I'm going to skip to the next video because I just like watching Kamala discuss it. Okay. Sheldon Whitehouse used his 30 minutes of allotted time during yesterday's committee hearing to deliver a detailed presentation on the sprawling dark money operation fueling the right-wing takeover of the U.S. judicial system. Whitehouse displayed a number of visuals and flowcharts tracing the dizzying array of special interests and advocacy groups from our favorite, the Koch network, to the Federalist Society, pardon me, to the Judicial Crisis Network, to the Pacific Legal Foundation. He showed how these groups have been coordinating, pouring money into the effort to confirm this far-right woman and other far-right corporate-friendly judges committed to rolling back reproductive rights, voting rights, climate regulations, and anything that is, not death culty. I feel as if they want to kill us all. Meanwhile, you've got QAnon talking about how the Democrats are molesting children while the Republicans are literally trying to kill everyone right in their faces. Anyway, in case you missed it, here is the clip of Sheldon Whitehouse.
What is the scheme here? Let me start with this one. In all cases, there's big anonymous money behind various lanes of activity. One lane of activity is through the conduit of the Federalist Society. It's was managed by a guy named Leonard Leo, and it's taken over the selection of judicial nominees. How do we know that to be the case? Because Trump has said so over and over again. His White House counsel said so. So we have an anonymously funded group controlling judicial selection run by this guy, Leonard Leo. Then in another lane, we have, again, anonymous funders running through something called the Judicial Crisis Network, which is run by Carrie Severino, and it's doing PR and campaign ads for Republican judicial nominees. It got single $17 million donation in the Garland-Gorsuch contest. It got another single $17 million donation to support Kavanaugh. Somebody, perhaps the same person, spent $35 million to influence the makeup of the United States Supreme Court. Tell me that's good.
Yeah. Oh, we missed one. Okay, let's do that one again. I'm sorry about that. You missed this one about the. Yeah, here we go. All right. Donald Trump had a victory with the Supreme Court yesterday about the census. If you stuck with me through all that silence, I commend you. Okay, the ruling says his administration can order the Census Bureau to halt this year's count of the nation's population prematurely. Civil rights advocates say the decision will result in irreversible damage to the 2020 census. There was no explanation for the decision other than right-wing extremism on the court, which, by the way, required at least 5 of the court's 8 justices to sign on. Justice Sotomayor issued the dissent, arguing that the percentage of non-responses is likely much higher among marginalized populations and in hard-to-count areas, such as rural and tribal lands. When governments allocate resources using census data, those populations will disproportionately bear the burden of any inaccuracies. And the right wing said, exactly, hooray. We don't have to give black and brown people anything. They're not even hiding their nasty, inhumane plan anymore. Have you voted yet? You can also go to censuscounts.org to help counteract this decision and make sure everyone is counted. Off to our Bill Barr coverage. A team of legal experts is calling on the House of Representatives to immediately launch formal impeachment proceedings against Attorney General William Barr for an array of abuses during his tenure as the nation's top law enforcement official. And now that Trump doesn't really like him anymore, maybe we'll actually get somewhere. Anyway, some of the things that he did were wielding power, from the Justice Department to advance the political objectives of Trump. In a detailed 267-page report released Monday, lawyers from the Center for Ethics and the Rule of Law at the University of Pennsylvania, where the smart people are, and Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington made the case that based on his words and actions as Attorney General, his authoritarian worldview limits the degree to which he regards himself as bound by the rule of law and makes him see himself as entitled to ignore the laws, ethics, and historical practices that has helped to ensure that, the work of the department is in line with the values of the democratic nation. Hey, go sign the petition to impeach Barr. actionnetwork.org/petitions. And then the petition is called Tell Congress to Impeach Bill Barr. It's very clear. You're not going to miss it. Sign it now. Important. actionnetwork.org/petitions. Also in the news, which I thought was interesting before we get to our guest, Seth Shostak, who is waiting in the wings for us, Amazon workers in Germany are making Prime Day the massive annual sale event being held, right now, Tuesday and Wednesday. It's they're doing like Black Friday, post-Thanksgiving, Christmas shopping a month in advance so they can deliver everything. They're making deals. Anyway, I'm not suggesting that you do it. The German workers are making the Prime Day, they're celebrating it by striking for better pay, safer working conditions, and the right to organize free from the e-commerce companies' pervasive surveillance and harassment. Verdi Union Secretary Andre Scheer expects thousands of Amazon employees to take part in the strike, which overlaps with an especially busy time for the company's warehouses as the result of Prime Day surge in bargain shopping. The Institute for Policy good job, I want to say to that union. Institute for Policy Studies, a progressive think tank, used Prime Day as an opportunity to remind people that Jeff Bezos has become $73 billion richer during this pandemic alone. And those are the progressive headlines. You're watching Act TV. I'm Julianna Forlano. If you are watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe and tell your friends about us. We are growing, and thank you if you have recently become one of our 40,000 plus viewers and likers. You can follow me personally on Twitter. I will probably tweet back stuff at you. And if you're watching on Facebook and on Twitch, stay tuned. Seth Shostak is joining us next.